on gender, in relation to the question my colleague Harriet asked you, the extra 19 million that's been provided to women's refugees is obviously very welcome, but Women's Aid has identified that they need 393 million. As we speak, our colleagues are speaking in the International Women's Day debate. We had International Women's Day on Monday. My colleague Jess Phillips is reading out the names of women who've been killed in the last year. And each year she has the grim task of doing that. Do you think that given that in the pandemic in the last year, the level of violence against women has gone up dramatically, do you think that this is a moment that you should be increasing the budget and providing the amount that Women's Aid has called for? And in those discussions with departments, will you consider doing that, Chancellor?
That's why I think you're absolutely right to highlight the impact, the increase in domestic violence through the pandemic. Right? It's one of the costs of what we're doing when we talk about all the different costs of lockdowns and the difficult decisions that have to be made. You're right to highlight that this is something that has happened as a result of people being locked down. So, and that's why at spending review in November we provided an extra £125 million for domestic violence to support all the ambitions in the domestic abuse bill, which supports victims and their children with safe accommodation. I think that's really important. I think that's well funded, and I believe at the time was warmly welcomed. And these extra investments will help trial and expand some new initiatives, which the evidence suggests can also make a significant impact into keeping women safe, and that's why we made those announcements as well.
Chancellor, you've heard we had a session yesterday. You've heard from Harriet about the impact on women. They've been hit very hard in this pandemic, and I've specifically highlighted the plight of women who need to be in refuges, and the supply is not as great as the need. So I just ask you to look at this in terms of the scale of what Women's Aid has spoken about, because it does feel like women's concerns are not being taken seriously enough. The impact on women in this pandemic and in terms of wider economic impacts are not being taken seriously enough by this government. Just